We are going to play with some CO2 emission practice here. So your friend uses 25 gallons of gasoline using a speedboat over the weekend. That's a lot of gallons of gas in a speedboat. Okay, let me read. Approximately how much CO2 pollution does this cause? Well, gasoline and CO2 means we have to use the 19.8 pounds per 1 gallon of gas. So working backwards, if your buddy used 25 gallons of gas, well, that means gallons cancels out. I simply multiply across, and he created 495 pounds of CO2 with his speedboat. How much CO2 is produced by driving 600 miles in an SUV that gets 38 miles per gallon? I want an SUV that gives 38 miles per gallon. Anyway, we're back to CO2 and gasoline, so we know we've got to use the 19.8 pounds per 1 gallon of gas. So when we're working backwards, we know we've got to have gallons here. Well, if we look at this ratio, 38 miles per gallon, well, remember that can be flipped the other way. So we're going to use 1 gallon is 38 miles. And then working backwards one more step, we're driving 600 miles. So that means my miles cancels out with miles, my gallons cancel out with miles, and I'm taking 600 divided by 38 times 19.8. Now, I work backwards with these problems, but again, if you understand them fully working forwards, it's just as good, just as easy. When you do the math there, we should end up with 312.63 pounds of CO2. Suppose your water softener runs for 20 minutes every night. How much CO2 is produced by using the water softener system for a year? Okay, well, part of this is we've got to figure out how long are we doing this. So 20 minutes is 1/3 of an hour, right? Because there are 60 minutes an hour. So if we use it for 1/3 of an hour every night, and there are 365 days in a year, then we are using approximately 121.67 hours, because we've got to have time. Okay, so we need watts. Well, if you look at a sheet provided in your packet, you will find that a water softener is 2 watts. So changing that to kilowatts, we're going to move our decimal left 3. So we end up with 0.002 kilowatts. Now, I mentioned we're doing this for 121.67 hours. And then because this is electricity, we're doing 1.37 pounds of CO2 per 1 kilowatt hour. So CO2, you do all this business, you end up with 0.333 pounds. Roughly 1/3 of a pound of CO2 is produced by your water softener. That's not much. Now, part B, slightly different, says, well, let's pretend you're charged 10 cents per kilowatt hour. How much does it cost you? Yeah, that just means the first 2 pieces come along for the ride because we need kilowatts. We need the hours that we use this in a year, and then it says 10 cents per kilowatt hour. So my kilowatts cancel out with kilowatts, the hours cancel out with hours. I multiply. This is going to cost you 2 cents, which just seems like not very much money at all. I mean, I got 2 cents in my pocket. Not literally, but, I have 2 cents. Anyway, shut up, Becky. Okay, number 4. According to the recent Nielsen data, Americans spend an average of 34 hours a week watching TV. Assuming the average American watches an LCD TV, that means 250 watts, estimate the CO2 emissions caused each week by the average American. Okay, well, watts to kilowatts, 1, 2, 3, so that's 0.25 kilowatts. So in our problem, I have kilowatts. They tell us we are watching 34 hours of TV, and it's electricity, so we multiply by 1.37 pounds of CO2 per 1 kilowatt hour. So kilowatts cancel with kilowatts, hours cancel out with hours. We do a bunch of multiplying because that's what we're good at. We get 11.645 pounds of CO2. Okay, now we're going to kind of take the other half of that. The average American watches 34 hours of TV. You don't unplug the TV when not in use. I'm looking at my TV right now. It's not being used, but it's totally plugged in. So how much is it from vampire energy? So when we're not using it, how much should we produce in a year? Was the last one a year? No, that was just a week. Okay. Okay, so now think about this. There are 24 hours a day and 7 days in a week. So there's 168 hours per week. If you watch TV for 34 of those hours, That means you're not watching TV 134 hours a week. Well, there are 52 weeks in a year, so you are not watching TV 6,968 hours. Which seems like I should be watching more TV. Look at all those wasted hours. Okay, so let's go ahead and do the math here. So our TV, it's the vampire energy. So this is 3.06 watts. So when I move that decimal to the left 3 places, I get 0.00306 kilowatts. 6,968 hours and 1.37 pounds per kilowatt hour. So kilowatts, hours, we multiply. 29.21 pounds is how much you produce from your TV in a year on standby mode, assuming these are the hours that you watch or don't watch TV. That's it.